You are sitting at your cluttered workbench in the garage at 4:12 a.m., staring at a glowing spreadsheet. You are a senior avionics technician for a commercial logistics company, and your take-home pay is exactly $5,200 a month. Your wife was diagnosed with a rapidly progressing neurological condition last year. The experimental disease-modifying therapies cost $6,800 a month out of pocket because your insurance provider classified them as elective. The math doesn't work, it never did. That is when a message appears on your encrypted, decentralized messaging app. It is a user with no avatar and a string of alphanumeric characters for a name. They do not ask for a resume. They send a schematic of a high-end civilian quadcopter and a single question asking if you can bypass the manufactured geofencing firmware to carry a 400-gram payload into a restricted airspace zone. They offer a one-time consultation fee of $12,000 wired directly to a cold storage cryptocurrency wallet. You look at the stack of medical bills resting on the edge of your workbench. You look at the door leading to the bedroom where your wife is sleeping. You type yes and hit send. You tell yourself it is just software, just lines of code floating in the ether, but the door you walked through doesn't open from the inside. 2 years later, you no longer work in commercial logistics. You are the architect of the invisible sky operating out of a soundproofed and climate-controlled basement in a rented suburban house. You modify commercial quadcopters into precision delivery systems for high-value target elimination. You strip away the factory plastic casings to reduce weight, replacing them with custom carbon fiber frames baked in a pressurized kiln at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. You rewrite the flight controller firmware line by line, erasing the digital serial numbers and disabling the automatic return-to-home protocols that law enforcement agencies use to track operators. The distance between you and the blood is measured in milliwatts of radio transmission and a 5.8 gigahertz encrypted video feed. You never touch the explosives. A separate crew handles the military-grade RDX. Your job is strictly the delivery mechanism. You solder custom-release servos using a 1.5 millimeter iron, connecting the drop mechanism to the auxiliary light switch on the drone remote control. When the operator pushes the button to turn on the landing light, the electrical current bypasses the bulb, travels through a 3.7-volt logic loop, and triggers the servo. The payload drops, the drone flies away, the authorities are left with a crater and no digital footprint. The cartel does not pay you for the explosion. The product isn't violence, the product is silence. You move through your process with clinical detachment. Trust is a commodity nobody can afford, so you compartmentalize every single step of your operation. You buy 3D printer filament using prepaid debit cards purchased with cash at gas stations 50 miles from your home. You route your internet traffic through 7 different proxy servers in non-extradition countries. Tonight, you are fabricating a custom payload clamp for a heavy-lift hexacopter. You design the part in CAD software, optimizing the internal geometry to withstand 14 pounds of shear force while remaining incredibly lightweight. You send the file to your heavily modified 3D printer, watching the brass nozzle extrude melted PETG plastic at 245 degrees Celsius. You watch the machine build the weapon layer by microscopic layer. You splice a 6-cell lithium polymer battery into the main power board, upgrading the capacity to 22.2 volts to handle the extra weight. You pack the finished drone and the custom clamp into a lead-lined Faraday bag and leave it in a designated dead drop locker at a central bus station. You collect your payment. The target, a federal prosecutor in a heavily guarded motorcade, is eliminated 2 days later when the hexacopter drops a shaped charge directly through the reinforced sunroof of his armored SUV. You do not watch the news. You pay your wife's medical bills in full. You upgrade her mobility equipment. You tell her your freelance consulting business is expanding. But the modern world is a digital panopticon, and perfection is an illusion. 6 months later, you are adjusting a gimbal motor when your burner phone screen flashes red. It is a priority burn notice from your handlers. During the motorcade assassination, the explosive charge detonated perfectly, but the blast radius caused the 3D printed clamp to shatter rather than vaporize. Forensic investigators recovered a fragment of the clamp from the street. It was just 1 centimeter of plastic. That 1 centimeter mistake is the end of your life. The federal laboratory placed that fragment under a scanning electron microscope They did not look at the shape of the plastic, they looked at the microscopic layer lines left by the 3D printer. Every printer nozzle wears down in a unique pattern, leaving a distinct mechanical signature on the extruded plastic, much like the rifling on a bullet. They match that 1 centimeter signature to a custom nozzle profile you briefly discussed on an anonymous open source hardware forum 4 years ago. They subpoenaed the forum server, traced a single leaked IP address from a day you forgot to activate your VPN, and found your home network. The handlers tell you the feds are 3 miles away and the cartel cleanup crew is 2 miles away. The cartel does not leave loose ends. You have exactly 4 minutes to cease existing. You trigger the thermite charges inside your hard drives, watching the magnesium burn at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, melting the steel platters into glowing slag. You grab a pre-packed bag containing a forged passport and $50,000 in untraceable silver bullion. You stop at the bottom of the basement stairs. You can hear your wife moving in the kitchen directly above you. If you go upstairs to say goodbye, they will take her in as an accomplice. They will freeze the accounts. She will die in a federal medical ward. The only way to protect her is to become a phantom, to let her believe her husband simply abandoned her without a single word. You leave a husband-sized hole in your home, a crushing emotional void that no amount of money will ever fill. You slip out the reinforced basement egress window into the freezing rain, running through the muddy back alleys as sirens begin to wail in the distance. Years later, you are sitting in a sweltering internet cafe in a country where you do not speak the language. You sleep with a loaded pistol under your hand, and you wake up terrified every time the power grid flickers. You stare at the cheap plastic keys of the keyboard, realizing you were just a disposable gear in a machine that feeds on human desperation. And right now, in some quiet suburban garage, another desperate engineer is staring at a glowing spreadsheet, realizing the math of their life is broken. An encrypted message is flashing on their screen. The cycle is starting all over again. That is a wrap. The story is fiction, but underworld drone weaponizers are real. Right now, somewhere a commercial quadcopter is being stripped of its safety protocols and wired for a silent kill. If this made you think, drop a comment and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.